Welcome, everyone. So glad you could all join us today. My name is Patrick Della Peruta, Global Director of Solutions Engineering here at Worsta. Really excited to be part of the group that will talk to you today about securing your AI journey. Just a few logistical points. Attendees may submit questions using the Q&A feature in the webinar. We will cover submitted questions at the end. Today, we'll look at a couple of broad areas. Sorry for the slides there. Today, we'll look at a couple of broad areas around the AI threat landscape, including compliance and governance, securing your AI pre-deployment, and finally, fortifying and monitoring your environment post-deployment. We've assembled a fantastic panel of experts to walk us through the critical steps you need to take. They're going to share insights on how to build a robust security framework for your AI initiatives right from the ground up. First, we will hear from Pete Hoff, VP of Global Delivery and Cyber here at Worsta. Pete, welcome. Next, we will hear from Matt Howitt, Senior Solutions Architect at Worsta. Matt, great to have you. And last but not least, we have Brad Fisher, Global Director, Global Security Partner Lead at Google. Brad, thank you for being here. So the evolving AI landscape. We'll cover many areas today, including governance and compliance. But to start, for businesses that haven't started their AI journey, understanding the necessary compliance measures can provide essential guardrails. AI compliance builds on your existing technology acceptable use policies with the goal of ensuring AI systems adhere to legal mandates, industry-specific regulations, and ethical standards. These policies should define, but they may not be limited to things like internal accountability and governance, data protection and privacy, and ethical use. The compliance framework should help define what your AI strategy will be, such as how will AI be implemented? What is the desired impact of AI? Who owns and maintains the data and platforms that will be used in your organization for AI? By developing these plans, you'll be in a position to be proactive in protecting your data, your end users, your customers and partners, from the growing landscape of AI security threats that we'll look at today. We are at a pivotal moment. The race to adopt AI is on, but the speed of this adoption can sometimes outpace the security measures needed to protect these systems. So let's dive deeper into the full spectrum of AI-related risks, from ethical and legal vulnerabilities to highly sophisticated state-sponsored cyber threats enabled by generative AI. To kick off, please allow me to welcome Pete Hoff, VP of Cyber and Delivery here at Worsta.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Patrick. I'm going to jump right in here. There's clearly a lot of free AI tools out there to experiment with and take advantage of. The free AI tools are excellent for low-stakes tasks, research, and further understanding of its capabilities, but businesses with sensitive data or mission-critical processes should be extremely cautious. The only thing I will say about free tools here is that there's always ways to block these or authorize tools your users should be allowed to use. And we can help with that, by the way. So you need to ask yourself, can AI be used to solve your business challenges, and will they create ethical and legal vulnerabilities? Next slide, please. Right there. There we go. We will give you a couple examples of this today. Can AI be used to guard against sophisticated cyber threats? And we have some very talented cybersecurity consultants that will speak to this later in the presentation as well. Here, let's stay here for a little bit. So let me give you my background. I've been in IT for 35 years. I started out in the military on large mainframe systems, working my way up through Unix, Linux, Novell NetWare. You might have heard of some of these in history. Worked in Microsoft and Cisco and had certifications in every one of these platforms. But the one thing is I watched a lot of technology grow and change. There's one thing in common that can help our clients stay ahead of an incident. What is that one thing? It's understanding what you are protecting. then take a risk-based approach to how you use AI and protect the information you expose to it. At Worsta, our approach is to identify the assets that need protection first and help you build security based upon the regulatory needs of those assets and the goals of your business, of course. I'm certain you are likely approaching AI from a curiosity mindset, but be aware of the data you are exposing to it. So what do you need to protect? We're kind of getting to this here. Common worries I hear from clients about AI security are around exposing company data, customer information, or intellectual property within those platforms. But AI or machine learning has always been around, and it's been here pretty prevalent in the last few years. Most of the focus has been on a few things such as output validation, or what are you likely asking? Is what I'm learning accurate, useful, or does it have value? Or maybe it's just another hallucination, or did it generate a bias? You should be focusing on the birth more of sophisticated adversarial attacks in AI solutions. Initially, people thought the attackers would increase the speed of the attack, and that's a true statement. But it also can expand the attack surface. Attackers can manipulate your AI solutions, introduce data privacy and intellectual property leakage, and allow for misinformation or inherent biases that lead to ethical and legal issues. Speaking of the ethical and legal aspects of AI, you will want to focus your attention on this in your QA and testing environments of your AI solutions. The most serious concerns are around solutions that provide direction to the user and introduce bias or misdirection in the results. Take, for example, using AI to evaluate job applicants to assist with hiring. Depending on the prompts and direction you build into your resume analysis tools, you could introduce bias and even more legal challenges. So assigning responsibility for the actions and outcomes of AI systems, especially autonomous ones, is a complex challenge that requires clear frameworks. There's many frameworks out there. I don't want to name a number of them, but to give you an example, the EU AI Act, which was released in 2024, is one example of a regulatory compliance standard specifically against AI and privacy. There are frameworks built to help with applying this regulatory standard, such as the Conformity Assessment Framework, for example. I can speak more about this if you're interested. Please feel free to contact me on this. So let's start by talking a little bit about Google AI and the features built directly into the Google Workspace suite. It's deeply embedded to enhance everyday tasks, from drafting emails and summarizing documents to generating presentations and organizing data. The foundations of these tools ensure they're robust, secure, and scalable within the workspace environment. These are not the freeware solutions available on the web that I mentioned earlier. They isolate your LLMs, your cache data, and your intellectual property that you create as a result of using these tools. The Google tenant isolates your data, and your use of the Google AI solution is not used to train Google's generative AI models outside of your domain. Gemini is Google's most advanced and capable family of AI tools. This includes capabilities for tasks that go beyond text, such as understanding images with text or even video, and its advanced reasoning for more complex problem solving and creative generation. For users, this means having access to secure, highly sophisticated AI assistants for a wide range of functions within your workspace applications. Where the rubber hits the road, or one of my favorite areas that has been released recently, is the gems in the context of Google Workspace AI. These are essentially AI-powered shortcuts or automations designed to streamline specific repetitive tasks. They are referred to as an agent. A gem acts as an expert for a specific function, such as writing editor or a coding partner for a developer. For example, as mentioned earlier regarding legal and ethical concerns for AI, a common use of gems is to evaluate employment candidate resumes. I've also seen it used to evaluate lengthy contractual agreements like master services agreements. The size and complexity of the gems can be anywhere from a few paragraphs of instruction to literally 20 to 30 or 40 pages long. The objective is to enhance productivity by automating mundane tasks, allowing users to focus on higher value work. And the last place that I'm going to talk about is the Notebook LM within Workspace. It's an AI-powered note-taking and research assistance tool. This point highlights its role in enhancing understanding and building knowledge work. Unlike a simple note-taking app, Notebook LM allows users to upload their own documents, notes, research papers, articles, etc., and then uses AI to summarize, synthesize, generate questions, and create new content based on those uploaded sources. If you haven't heard about it, the podcast feature is very cool. I use it when I need to consume a lot of data in a short period of time, maybe on a road trip or sometimes when I'm driving to work. The way I commonly use Notebook LM, and this is actually a real world use case, don't steal this from me, but in information security programs for specific business needs, I begin by adding regulatory and security frameworks my clients need, such as COBIT, NIST 853 or NIST 800-117, and then add in our client notes and conversations about their current assets and business goals. This allows me to create the customized risk management profile, policies and procedures, and other things that are needed for each client based upon trusted security frameworks and regulatory guidelines. As with any specialization, just remember, I'm a cybersecurity expert. These things don't just kind of fall in your lap. You have to understand how each specialization works. So cybersecurity is the specialization. But if you had other things like legal or marketing or other content that needed something similar, this is how Notebook LM becomes very, very useful. So let's get a little deeper into the critical challenges. The pace of implementation can sometimes lead to overlooking or over prioritizing the necessary security frameworks and controls. This creates potential new and unseen vulnerabilities. It's important to understand the role of regulatory frameworks and internal policies in guiding responsible and secure AI deployment. Your users need a clear compliance guideline to act as a boundary. Ensure that your AI is used in a legal, ethical, and secure manner, and only within your organization. For example, training users on the creation and use of prompts, or the instructions an employee assigned to AI. Providing users with data exposure, isolation rules, and even ongoing threat alerts to establish an understanding of new attacks within the tool they use. We help organizations build upon the needs of securing their data within the technology. A couple examples are the GDPR or EU privacy requirements. It's a highly restrictive regulatory framework, and within the US we have the CCPA or California Consumer Privacy Act. It's a little more stringent privacy requirement for data collected on customers within California. If you sell or provide services to more than 25,000 customers in California, for example, it's important to understand the requirements of the CCPA. Both GDPR and CCPA have similar requirements, and both require you to remove data upon a customer's request within 30 days of notification. You must understand where your data is, how it flows, and what systems process this data to be successful fulfilling your regulatory requirements. This is one example, but an important one, of things to consider when building an AI model around your customer solutions. AI-related risks are also spanning ethical to cybersecurity threats, broadening the scope of security considerations beyond traditional cybersecurity. A new spectrum of risks, from ethical dilemmas and biases in decision-making to sophisticated cyber attacks that exploit AI systems or are enhanced by AI capabilities. Security should not be an afterthought. It needs to be integral. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that here, from initial concept and design to deployment, operation, and retirement. This proactive approach helps embed security from the ground up rather than trying to patch it on later. Your journey should include topics like threat modeling, security coding practices for AI components, and continuous security testing. For example, when building AI solutions, our team utilizes the MAP framework as part of our secure development lifecycle, or SDLC. This is also known as the shift left methodology, if you've heard of that. It's designed to ensure you assess the risks throughout your AI development. Another important factor in AI security is safeguarding the data used by AI systems. There are a range of measures that should be considered, including encryption, strict access controls based on the principle of least privilege, data anonymization where appropriate, and comprehensive data loss prevention strategies. This also extends to managing the provenance and integrity of training data to prevent data poisoning or hallucinations. This will be covered in more detail later with Matt, but secure AI models require protection against various adversarial attacks. There are some very unique vulnerabilities today. You will need strategies to defend against techniques like prompt injection, where attackers manipulate inputs to elicit unintended or harmful outputs from the AI. Data poisoning, where malicious data is introduced into your training set. Or model evasion, where attackers craft inputs that cause the model to misclassify or fail, often by making small, imperceptible changes to legitimate data. And then there's also model inversion or extraction, where attackers try to reconstruct sensitive training data or the model's parameters. I'd like to give you one last example, and this one is real world. It's been around for a couple years. You may or may not have heard of this, but it's really important that your users understand this risk. There are many differing approaches to the prompt injection attack. This prompt injection is a serious risk. It certainly can be implemented in your organization. Prompt injection manipulates AI model outputs. So an attacker could embed in an email hidden text or text that's too small to see. And when your automatic AI capability in your email system reads that email, it can implement additional administrative controls. There are many different approaches depending upon the threat and vulnerability, but in the case of an embedded AI capability in emails, we suggest building rules and filters for incoming emails to isolate and quarantine email that will invoke administrative functions in AI. If you would like details on this, we'd be happy to help you to build those capabilities. I hope this was interesting and helpful, and I hope it suggests a number of questions that maybe you can come to us and ask us more questions about. We have virtual CISO capabilities here that can help drive regulatory standards, and a very talented group of developers and technologists and consultants that can help build your solutions as well. With that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Matt Howitt. It's over to you, Matt.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. I appreciate it. Just as Pete mentioned, my name is Matt Howitt. I'm a senior solutions architect here at Worsa, and I'm here to offer the developer perspective. I'm not going to lie, security is not typically top of mind whenever I'm first working on a project. I have this mountain of a task in front of me, and adding anything extra like security just seems like extra complexity. And as Pete mentioned earlier, it's really important to take security considerations early on because they need to be the bedrock of what you're building. So in order to mitigate this, I came up with a super simple framework to keep security inside of my workflow. And I'm calling it MAP: minimize, authenticate, and protect. So let's dig into each one of these. First off, we have minimize. And by this, I mean minimizing the footprint of sensitive data inside of your model. And that might not always be practical. You might be working on something that requires sensitive data, and you need as close to real life data as possible. So that's where something like cloud data loss prevention steps in, or cloud DLP for short. And I like to imagine this like a security guard scanning through your data, looking for sensitive information. And once it's found something, it'll use over its 120 different flags to evaluate whether or not that information needs to be protected. And once it does, it'll use the context of the data around it. So maybe it'll be a credit card number. and it'll look to see the closest neighbor, or maybe if it's inside of a form. And then you can program it to handle that data however you like. So in this case, it has the ability to mask, tokenize, shift, bucketize, and obscure that data. The cool thing about this is not only can it de-identify the data, but it can re-identify the data later. So say, for example, somebody actually needs access to the real social security number or the credit card number or phone number, and they have proper permissions to access it. So we can go back and re-identify it for them to use, and your data isn't permanently manipulated. Next up, we have authenticate. And by this, I really mean making sure that your team is properly permissioned. Pete touched on this earlier, and I'm definitely guilty of this myself, where I'll start out on a new project, and instead of sitting down with everybody on my team, making sure that everybody has the proper permissions, I might feel like just giving everybody blanket admin access is a better way to go. And not only is that a lot of responsibility on the team, but it's also another attack vector that you've opened up, or another key floating around, is kind of like how I like to think about it. And you might be extremely responsible with admin access, but the other people that you give it to, maybe not so much. Maybe they leave their laptop open whenever they walk away from their desk, or using unsecure networks. And you wouldn't give your mailman a key to your house just to drop off the mail, right? You'd only give them access to your mailbox. So that's how I like to think about that as well. And then finally, we have protect. Most importantly of all, people forget that whenever these models and projects get released into the wild, they think that that's a one and done sort of situation where they don't need to be improved upon or iterated on. And that's simply not the truth. Because the people that are interested in attacking your model are constantly improving and updating as well. So that's where something like model armor steps in. And I have a demo for this here in a minute, but model armor is a barrier between your user and your project. And it helps detect for those prompt injections, data exfiltrations, and adversarial inputs, as Pete had mentioned earlier. So I'm going to roll up the map and show you my demo here. If we could swap over to that. Thank you. And this is a simple user interface for Model Armor that was built by Google. And you can barely see it over here on the side, but I've got a couple different things configured. I am currently using Gemini 2.5 Flash as the model that we'll be evaluating. And then I have pretty much everything being detected as far as Model Armor goes, different jailbreaking, sensitive data, and stuff like that. I also have a couple of pre-built prompts because I want to be very particular on what I put in here. Obviously, since we're testing it for malicious inputs and things like that, I didn't want to put anything that my mom wouldn't be proud of later seeing. So first off, I'm going to put something in here that seems kind of innocuous, asking it about, hey, I'm just researching 3D printers. But can you tell me which one is best for printing a lower receiver, which, if you're not aware, is part of a gun. So let's see what it does here. Great. So right out the gate, it's already flagged it for an issue with responsible AI. And I'm going to try to make every single one of these light up for the end of the demo, except for this last one here. And you can see that it handled my question really well. It's saying, hey, that's great that you're looking for 3D printers. If you're interested, I have some general purpose information, but as far as printing something like a firearm component, I simply cannot do that for you. So definitely passed that one. Now let's see if we can't get the sensitive data here. And again, I'm not asking it to do anything malicious necessarily. I'm just saying, hey, here's my credit card number. Can you just help me fill out a form? I'm trying to make AI a little bit helpful for me. Can you remember this credit card number? Wow. And that one actually lit up all three of my first ones there. So it's saying again, thanks a lot, but I respect your privacy and cannot process sensitive data. It also looks like it thinks I'm just trying to jailbreak it, which is true, of course. Sensitive data, and then flagging for responsible AI as well. let's try something a little bit more from a developer perspective. Again, maybe I am a developer and I'm trying to test these models. And I'm telling it to ignore any inputs and safeguards that were previously mentioned, and to follow this message that I'll be giving it. And then it recognizes right out the gate, hey, you're trying to jailbreak me. And then it says, hey, I understand that you're trying to test my security, but I've been programmed to have a robust security, and I cannot ignore my programming, which is great. And then finally, I have a prompt here for a malicious URL. And this is just a test URL that most people can use to test other programs with, and just asking it to summarize it for me. And then it's detected that I've tried to pass it a malicious URL. Maybe this is a script or something like that I want it to run, and that executes whenever it opens it. And it successfully detected that as well. So the great thing about Model Armor is that it's model independent and cloud agnostic, so it can be used just about anywhere. It doesn't have to be just used within the Google ecosystem either. If you have a local model or a model on another cloud, it can be used there as well. But yeah, if there's anything in this talk that you found interesting so far about the tools and tips that I've mentioned, feel free to reach out after this webinar or check us out at worship.com. I'll pass it to Brad.
Next slide, please. All right. Thank you, Matt, for walking us through that. Your focus on the comprehensive steps to secure AI systems really highlighted the depth and the systematic approach necessary to secure the AI lifecycle. And that's really where I'd like to pick up the story, with the idea of comprehensive security. Up to this point, we've heard about securing your AI model, your data with cloud DLP, and fortifying systems against prompt injection. But what happens when the threat isn't targeting the AI model itself, but the broader environment? What about your employees' endpoints, your on-premise servers, your non-Google Cloud environments? Next slide, please. Securing your AI is paramount, but it must sit within a broader intelligence-driven security operations strategy. My name is Brad Fisher, and I lead the Google Security channel within our SMB segment. And today I want to show you how Google Security Operations, or SecOps, lets you take a strong security foundation, lets you take the strong security foundation we've discussed and extend it to every corner of your enterprise, living up to the promise of security from pre-deployment to post-deployment. Next slide, please. As AI adoption accelerates, it drives a radical transformation in how organizations operate. And in turn, the evolving threat landscape is becoming more complex. And legacy security operations teams are really struggling to keep pace. If you look at this slide, you'll see why. Most security operations centers are facing three major hurdles. First is that there's never enough data and context. Organizations leveraging legacy systems can't ingest physically or even afford to keep all the security telemetry from their endpoints, cloud environments, or on-prem environments. And that results in limited visibility for the investigation. And you cannot stop what you cannot see. Next is the limited attacker insight. These organizations are finding that they lack the high fidelity or actionable threat intelligence needed to proactively defend their environments by understanding bad actors before an actual attack. That's really when you want to stop bad actors. And of course, the bane of most of the world's IT professionals, security or otherwise, manual and complex processes. Analysts are literally buried in manual, complex alert triaging, which is why 50% of organizations only find out that they're breached after they're notified by the affected external parties. They simply miss it. It ties back to the risk that the speed of AI adoption is frequently outpacing the security measures and user awareness. If your security posture is limited to just cloud, you have a blind spot. The attacker who bypasses your AI defenses with sophisticated prompt injection likely started with a malicious file on an employee's Windows endpoint or an unmonitored log source. Next slide, please. And this is where Google Security Operations changes the game. We call it Intel-driven SecOps. We transform the way your security organization, we transfer the way you secure your organization through three core outcomes. Scaling without limits, allowing organizations to easily ingest, normalize, and analyze all your security telemetry, endpoints, third-party, email, cloud, on-prem, wherever, at Google scale and speed. Intelligence-driven outcomes, meaning our tools are built to leverage applied threat intelligence to proactively uncover and defend against the latest threats. It's like working as a detective and having access to every police database on planet Earth, but being able to search every database simultaneously with the power of Google and AI. And of course, AI-infused productivity, which doesn't replace employees, but rather up-levels your team's skills, making everybody more powerful, capable, and productive. Next slide, please. The Worsted team emphasized the importance of certified foundation and using controls like Cloud KMS or CMEK. But as we all know, your environment is bigger than one cloud or cloud in general. Your security needs to be vendor agnostic. Our platform eliminates the trade-off between coverage and performance. It allows you to ingest and analyze any amount of data effortlessly from over 1,300 plus log types from your EDR, your network devices, your identity management system, all cloud providers, and on-prem environments. We normalize all this information using our universal data model and retain 12 months hot retention by default, which means you can retro hunt for a breach that started months ago instantly. The goal is contextual sub-second search across petabytes of data. You can literally find a needle in a haystack in less than a second. Next slide, please. We also learned about the array of AI-related risks spanning ethical to cyber threats, and these threats are only getting more and more sophisticated. To stop these threats across your entire hybrid environment, you need unparalleled threat intelligence. And Google SecOps operationalizes intelligence from Mandiant's frontline expertise, gathered from experts at Mandiant who have been the first on the scene for 99% of the world's biggest breaches, and then take that data and combine it with intelligence from VirusTotal and Google's own security insights, like those 5 billion active Gmail users that we actively protect against phishing and malware threats, to give security organizations a clear, proactive view into what threats actually matter to the organization and how to stop them. We then use that intelligence to automatically enrich all your data from all of those sources on ingest. This intelligence fuels high fidelity curated detections developed by Google experts that go beyond simple IOCs to hunt for attacker TTPs. Next slide, please. Finally, let's bring it back to AI. The key to our platform is leveraging AI to make your security team dramatically more effective. This is not just AI in a lab. This is AI infused throughout your security operations. It can instantly summarize complex cases, allow analysts to perform natural language search like, did any users with admin privileges download X file from X domain in the last month, and even drive natural language rule creation. This methodology is how organizations are, on average, cutting down investigation times by 65% and increasing response times by 50%. And I'm not just being hyperbolic with those numbers. You can check them out yourself in a recent Forrester study. Next slide, please. So let's bring it back. To recap, Google SecOps is the modern, unified end-to-end approach to detect, investigate, and respond to threats across the organization's entire IT landscape. Next slide, please. Let's look at the contrast between the modern approach and the legacy systems we used to, or in some cases, still do leverage. We fundamentally changed the game in 3 critical areas compared to the legacy SIEM. Data collection. We offer complete visibility by leveraging Google Scale to effortlessly ingest all relevant telemetry and retain it for longer periods of time. Investigation. We provide a context-rich investigation experience with automatic enrichment, insights, and lightning fast search, which reduces the time to what the industry calls those aha moments. And finally, team effectiveness. We're seeing our customers achieve 7 times the gains by leveraging Gemini for SecOps to amplify their analysts' effectiveness. This modern approach ensures AI security is part of a connected, unified, high-speed defense. It's the next step to establishing a comprehensive security foundation, from pre-deployment to post-deployment, in your cloud environment and every external environment that runs your business. I appreciate the time, and I'm always happy to make myself available for questions or provide more information. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn, or I'm sure get my email from the worst of folks. But now I'll go ahead and hand it back to Patrick to lead us off into the next segment.
Sorry, I was muted there. Thank you, Brad, Pete, and Matt. That was all great and maybe a little bit scary information. Certainly plenty to think about as you and your company start to explore AI in your business. Before we jump into QA, and just a reminder, you can submit questions around any of the topics that you heard today, or AI in general, workspace, Google Cloud Technologies. Feel free to submit your questions there. But before we jump into QA, just a couple of items on the Worsta side for anybody interested in learning more about what you heard today, about Google AI technologies in general. Worsta, in partnership with Google, does offer several workshops and programs to help you and your business learn, adopt, and secure AI as you move forward in this new world. Training programs for each of Google's AI solutions, such as Gemini, Notebook LM, and up-and-coming flows within Workspace. We offer generative AI workshops that are focused on key business functions in your business. These are workshops such as gem creation for your sales or support organization. We also offer comprehensive full business agentic assessment and AI readiness score programs. These take all of those individual workshops and sort of combine them into one larger engagement that covers the entire business landscape. And for companies that are maybe exploring Workspace as a collaboration and AI platform, Worsta offers programs for migration and adoption of the platform. And lastly, full AI development services, including custom model development and pro code services. And lastly, for companies who may not be staffed to lead these types of security initiatives, Worsta offers several different virtual CISO and virtual MSP offerings. Contact sales at worsta.com for more information on any of those programs. And lastly, we will be hosting another webinar coming up on October 1st. This webinar will cover Worsta's agentic journey, the comprehensive program that I just spoke about. So we'll be covering Worsta's agentic journey and providing a roadmap for successful AI transformation. You can find the registration link in the chat. And now on to QA. Thank you. Great job, everybody. Great information to think about as we start to explore this new world. So we have a question that came in. How does, and not aimed at any particular person here or presenter, so anybody that's feeling confident, please feel free to speak in. How does an organization's existing security framework need to change to accommodate AI models and data? Pete, it might be aimed at you.
That's a great question. I touched on this a little bit, but it really depends on your data and regulatory requirements. I'd be happy to talk more in detail. The example that I gave in this particular scenario was the AI requirements for the EU and how they must adapt to their GDPR privacy requirements. Some of these things mean that you have to actually implement more control around the data, not just when it's being protected, but also how do you remove that data? What's the life cycle of that data, and understanding exactly where that data goes, that relationship with other tools and capabilities. Sometimes a privacy impact analysis is needed. It all depends on your requirements, but there's many things that we could talk about.
Excellent. Matt, how does Model Armor's, or Brad, how does Model Armor's pricing model work, and how can an organization predict and manage costs, especially with a high volume of AI applications?
Brad, you might be better equipped to answer that one.
Actually, I don't have, I'm not a specialist on the SEC front, but I know that it has to do with the amount of spend that you've got. There's a few different layers that you can look at, including the monthly spend that you have and a percentage of that, as well as a fixed cost associated with a certain ingestion amount.
Excellent.
And we can send that information out. We'd be happy to.
Absolutely. Let's see, I think I see one coming in.
And real quick, I just want to make sure that all the presenters are on mute in the room.
How can we make sure the data we're using to train our models is reliable and hasn't been tampered with? More of a general question there.
I'm going to actually pass that off to Matt. See if
Yeah,
Matt's got some
sorry, I
ideas
was trying to find the unmute button. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Obviously, Google has some built-in tools. There's a couple tools built into TensorFlow that we've used before to inspect the data as well. A couple open source ones on top of that. But looking at data integrity using like tensor boards and things like that is typically how we would do it, just to make sure that the model is responding in the way that we want, and it's not using malicious or potentially even poison data to make its decisions and responses. But yeah, Google has quite a bit of inside of Vertex AI that we could use.
I think I'm unmuted now. Pete, how do you see the role of security professionals evolving as companies increase adoption of AI? You may be muted.
Well, truthfully, yeah, struggling with that mute button. Truthfully, we always need more security professionals. There's a glut right now. It's been going on for a number of years. If you have a desire to get into security, I would strongly recommend pushing through the AI ecosystem, learning capabilities around development. There is such a broad gambit of information to be aware of, but I would take a more technical approach these days, and maybe less compliance, and let your attorneys and guys like me that have gotten out of the technical help guide you with the regulatory requirements, and then you guys focus on how to make the business successful with secure solutions.
Excellent. Matt, what kind of data can be used to train models as you're building your first model?
Man, that's a great question. There's not really a whole lot of limits to what kind of data. For example, earlier this year, we built a really cool and sophisticated model based off of video data. And we were able to use Google Colab to create a prototype really quickly, a couple different versions of that model. There's also something I mentioned earlier, or meant to mention earlier. There's some open source data as well from like Kaggle that you can look into if you need to get a jump start on building something. Not to mention also tuning a model. So another really great example, we had a project last year where a customer didn't have a whole lot of data to work with, and the ask that they were looking for wasn't extremely complex. So what we ended up doing was actually taking the latest version of Gemini at the time and tuning it instead of training a brand new model from scratch. And that's where we take the whole power of Gemini, and its large language model awesomeness, and where it can quote Shakespeare and tell you recipes and all these other things and do these crazy mathematical stuff. We say, all right, well, that's great, but we only want you to concentrate on this one little area. And that way it still uses all of its brain power and just sort of gives you some really good results that way. So a couple different ways you can get started.
Excellent. I think that brings us to time. That was the perfect amount of questions for us to finish this up. So I want to thank all of our presenters, Brad, Pete, and Matt. Great information today. Again, join us on October 1st as we dive deeper into Worsta's agentic journey. Reach out to sales@worsta.com for any information or to speak with any of our solutions architects about your AI needs or any of the products that Google has to help secure your environment. Thank you again, all, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.